Today we talk about a point guard curse. Year after year after year, 2018, 19, and 20, there has now been one point guard in each draft class that seemingly may have already peaked. And because of that, now their teams are looking back at them and wondering if they're really the franchise superstar that they were looking for. Morant, Lamelo, and Trae Young have all sort of had a bit of a decline in terms of their performance. And now, with more so Lamelo and Ja being looked at as negative value assets because of, well, with Ja, obviously all the off the court antics sort of going on, and Lamelo being hurt all the time, and Trae Young, quite frankly, has been injured and his performance has also declined. People around the league now believe that these three all have negative value, and wouldn't be surprised if they were traded for one another. I wouldn't want any of them. They might all have negative value. When there are those sort of unwanted superstars, sometimes they end up getting traded for each other. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens in this case. Today, we look at all three of these superstar point guards and talk about whether or not their value should be negative and whether or not they should actually be traded and what their worth is. So let's get right into it. And the first player I actually want to talk about is the first one that has complained, or allegedly complained, because, he denied the claim, so I'm not going to say he did. And that is Lamelo Ball. Now, I've talked about Lamelo Ball a couple times on this channel. Personally, I'm not that high on him overall. I don't think he's a horrible player or something like that. But I think it's undeniable that, to me, when the report did at first come out that Lamelo was frustrated with the Hornets, my initial response, quite frankly, was, what right do you really have right now to be frustrated? There is a stat that someone had posted, and I'll try and have it pop up here from Twitter, that Kawhi Leonard in the past 4 years have played more games than Lamelo Ball. Now, I really want you to stop and think about that. Kawhi Leonard, who has worse knees than my grandmother, has played still more games than Lamelo Ball. Now, is this me saying that Charlotte has done perfectly right by LaMelo Ball? Absolutely not. By no means am I saying that. That would be foolish and incorrect. But at the same time, this team has continued to draft as if LaMelo is their franchise player. The worst pick they've done in recent memory is easily Solomon. Not even close, it's him. But if we're going off of this year, they've drafted three more than capable players to this lineup. Khan, who I've made a video about. Kalkbrenner, who's been a really, really damn good center pickup after moving off of Mark Williams. And Sion James, who's been a good rotational player. All of whom support the way that LaMelo Ball would want to play. They can space the floor, they can shoot, not so much Kalkbrenner, but Kalkbrenner's going to be a good rim protector, good pick and roll guy, lob threat. They've continued to draft around LaMelo. Brandon Miller, also been an injury-prone player. But the idea there was, if LaMelo wasn't having the ball in his hands, there's no one else that could really create a shot for themselves. Well, they drafted Brandon Miller to try and do that. At a certain point, to me, I find it, quite frankly, extremely unfair to say that LaMelo and his faults are purely because of his teammates. Now, is this me saying that LaMelo is completely falling off or he's trash or something like that? Absolutely not. That would be ludicrous. But aside from that all-star season, LaMelo Ball has never cracked even 44 to 45% from the field. That's obscene. That's not good. And some of this is still just the shot diet he has, quite frankly, being horrendous. Horrendous. Is LaMelo Ball still a good passer and playmaker? Yes. But again, the three ball continues to not really fall because, again, the shots of threes he's choosing to take become ridiculous. He shoots from so deep as if he's peak Damian Lillard or peak Steph Curry. And you're not. And that's okay. But I think the way LaMelo Ball has played would frankly be unfair to even say that they have done wrong by LaMelo. When you're averaging over the last 3 seasons, even if we go back another one, give it 4 seasons, 41% from the field, 35 from 3 on 10 a game? No. No. That's just not acceptable. I'm sorry. If people on this, NBA community can go in spite of a player like Paolo Banchero, right? Because of how the team plays without him, whatnot, yada, yada, yada. Why is that same energy not kept for a player in Lamelo Ball who his shot diet has in some ways gone in spite of this team? Now, again, the Hornets are not purely bad because of Lamelo. That is not the point I am trying to make. But what is the trade value for a player who has been so injury prone? And when he has been on the court, his production has, aside from, I would guess, that very, very beginning, that first, I believe, 15 games of last year, what other sample are you looking at for Lamelo Ball and going, this proves that he's an incredible value player? What team is taking that risk on someone like Lamelo right now? I don't think there is one. Right? Even if you looked at a team like Milwaukee, they're trying to move off Giannis. So they wouldn't try and get, Lamelo or something like that. They're, quite frankly, if I'm being real, is not a lot of great value for what Lamelo Ball has. Because, again, his issue is largely the injury bug. And then when he does play, his performance isn't good enough to warrant some crazy package. And you look at even his own draft class, again, kind of going to the curse, thought. There's a Tyrese Halliburton in that same draft class, who, mind you, plays more efficient basketball, still is a great passer and playmaker, and has still led teams to, like the Pacers, even before they got Siakam, to some of the best offenses in the league, right? Like, his play style has still translated, because at the same time, Tyrese Halliburton doesn't decide at 37 feet to pull a 3-ball with 18 seconds left on the shot clock. There are just things that Lamelo Ball objectively on his own could do to make his situation better. Because the on-off numbers, right? Just to do this. So do I think Lamelo Ball is going to get traded? Nope. I think his value is in the mud. I don't think his injury history helps with that. I don't think his performances when he isn't injured is not helping with that. Frankly, Lamelo is stuck there. And I think if that report was real, and if Lamelo was frustrated, I think it's extremely unfair to the Charlotte Hornets organization, who has, quite frankly, continued to draft as if you were their guy, in spite of your history injury, in spite of the fact that when you do play, even then, it's not as if you're doing something crazy. At a certain point, it just has to be discussed. Even if we look at their draft picks, right? Saloon's a bad pick. Brandon Miller was a good player. They had traded Jalen Durant. Mark Williams is still a good pick. James Bouknight's a bad pick. But then you had LaMelo. You had drafted PJ Walker. You had still drafted pretty well overall up until this point. And at a certain point, the conversation just has to be had of, at what point are we going to acknowledge that LaMelo Ball is not necessarily in the victim role? But now I want to talk about the next point guard on this list, and that is Ja Morant. And now this one hurts me the most, because I'm a Ja guy. I love Ja Morant. He was one of my favorite players. And after 21, 22, 22, 23, and then he had the injury and the suspension, and then, got injured again. And then Ja, frankly, in terms of his quality of play, is just not as good as he used to be. Whether it's getting to the spots, whether it's settling for horrendous threes, basically ever since 21-22, the dude is averaging 29% from 3 on 5 a game. That is horrible. Terrible. Stop shooting. Stop. I don't know if you're trying to beat the whole, you're only a driver and getting in, but so damn what? Get to your spots that work. Do not settle for threes and bail a defense out time after time. And then you talk about the spacing of this team and you talk about some of these other things, but where does it help again, when the team, with Ja, quite frankly, I've been fed up with Ja because of the off the court stuff. And you might go, oh, well, the gun stuff isn't really a thing anymore. Sure. But who are you to blame the franchise and the team and the coach and all these things when you're performing like trash? Quite frankly. Like, when you've been on the court, aside from, I believe, that first game of the season, I don't think John's been like, oh my God, every other game he's at least having some crazy night. No. His first game he had 35. Then against Phoenix he had 28. And then you look at the rest of these games and you go, what the hell is happening? You're playing disinterested. You play like you don't want to be there. And if you don't want to be there, it is what it is. But I'm going to keep the same energy because when James Harden did this to the Houston Rockets, I thought that was baloney. Like, I just thought that was wrong of him to do to a team. To his teammates, to his coaches, to whatever. That's wrong. John, if you want to move, hear me out, brother. You got to play better than whatever the hell you're playing right now. Because you may not go to some good team now. Because they're not going to go, oh man, when Josh played this year, he's been averaging, 22, 8, and 3, and he's on 45 from the field and at least like 33, 34 from 3. But we can, when we bring him here, we might have him shoot a little less. So the volume, the efficiency can maybe go up. Whatever you want to say. Brother, you have been trash. And then you still bring off the court drama. So it's not as if I'm not betting on, oh, well, Ja comes here, man. His play might come up, but I got to worry about him off the court. No. The way he talks to reporters, the way that he, instigates on the bench, just all of these things that, frankly, at this point, John Morant has not earned the right to do. Like, I have no problem with talking trash. You're in the NBA. You're a professional, and you're at the highest level you should be able to. But at the same time, you have to play. And you have to be playing good. To be when you're going up to Klay Thompson calling him a bum and you're washed and all. Then what the hell are you this year, Ja? What the hell are you this year? If not washed. If we're going off your terminology with what Klay Thompson used to be. What have you been this year? Like, again, I think his value is just ridiculously low because, again, he's playing like garbage and his behavior on and off the court has been garbage. So now, because I'll give this to Lamelo. I'm just going to be honest, right? Like, I talked about his shot diet and all that. But at no point is Lamelo off the court disrespecting reporters or, throwing shade at the coaching staff or none of that. That I can respect, right? Even if you may be unhappy with the situation, you are not going to drag your teammates and your coaches down with you and to bring the morale of a locker room down with you. I respect LaMelo Ball for that. But that is ridiculous to me that you would do this, Ja, and you're playing at this level. Like, I don't know what more to say than that. Because what you have been doing, quite frankly, is unfair to this organization. Because, again, they have also continued to try their best to draft around you. Now, the only thing I'm not a fan of is when they fire Taylor Jenkins. And if the reports are true, you wanted him fired. Because you weren't getting the ball enough. Even though your offense at that point, mind you, was still really damn good. You were not being basically superstar treatment level. At this point, I think, quite frankly, Ja Morant's trade value is in the mud. I don't think if he gets traded, I don't know where he goes to. Like, what team right now is taking the risk on Ja, who has been consistently injured now for the last 2 to 3 years, right? He played 50 games last year, but then 9, 12 this year. What is he supposed to do? Like, what team is taking the gamble on that? And if you are, you might get a second round pick. But I want to get to the final guy on this list, and that's Trae Young. I want to have a conversation with Trae Young that's more similar to the LaMelo Ball one. Because even though Trae definitely has had influence on how many times these coaches have been, fired and gone through and changed and all of that, right? We got to talk about your play, brother. Because 21-22 is your outlier season. And I don't even think it's a conversation. Because even if you go, well, Imster, in 23-24, the three-point volume is still, or three-point shooting is still really good. The field goal percentage, it's a 3 to 4 point dip. Look at every season post 21-22. 42 from the field, 35 from 3 on 8 a game, not good volume. 11 assists, which is really good. and 25 points. So here's my thing with Trae Young. He's a high volume, guy, right? Like, he's going to get his up. But he has a problem similar to Lamelo for me, which is at times the shot diet is horrendous. And his size, or lack thereof, hurts this team. Because again, on defense, he can just get absolutely picked on at every given point. And then on offense at times, when you get to a playoff situation, you can trap. You can force him to get uncomfortable. And because of his size, he's not able to as easily combat it. Am I saying that any of these players are necessarily bad? No. And if that's the point you're gathering from this video, I'm sorry that that's what you're gathering. That's not my point. My point is, we might need to just have the honest conversation that these players have offensively peaked. Like, they have already reached their best version of themselves in a season. Because even then, right, like, these play 40% from the field and 33 from three. 15 points in the last playoffs he went to. And even if we're being honest, if you look at that Philly series, he was not playing that good. The play style does not warrant, how would I explain this? Trae Young's basically performances do not warrant the play style that the Hawks had tried to do, if I'm going to be honest. He has not been performing like a James Harden on Houston, where he's giving you 28, 29 on 44, 45 from the field, 36, 38, 39 from three on like 8 or 9 a game, with all those, like, he's not warranting that. At the end of the day, with this team, Trae Young is I'll say this, he's the most likely to get traded of the three. Because, again, he still gives you good value when he's been on the court. Like, it's still not the best, but of the three, he has looked the best when they've played in recent years, for the most part. But, brother, that contract's coming up very soon. And your size and defense deficiencies are still a glaring problem. I think, frankly, he's the most likely to get traded, but I don't think his trade value is that high either. At the end of the day, I think that with Trae Young, when you have dudes like Luka, SGA in the same draft class as you may have reached success the earliest of your draft class, right? The first of the three to make the conference finals. But ever since, whether it's due to the way the Hawks have, made moves, whether it's due to you being injured, or how teams can basically trap you, and no matter the rotating door of coaches that you get, he is frankly not good enough. None of these point guards have clearly established themselves as legitimate number ones in the NBA. At all. Trae Young at this point, I'm just going to say it, Jalen Johnson is the best player on the Atlanta Hawks. I'm sorry, he is. Because the offense that Trae Young gives you, I get it. He's a better passer and playmaker, sure. He's not a better scorer, if we're being honest. Overall, he's definitely way worse on the defensive end. So even then, I still think Jalen Johnson's a good enough playmaker to where that gap is not significant enough for me to go, yeah, this is still Trae Young's team. If you're the Atlanta Hawks front office, you're probably thinking we're building around Jalen Johnson, and we just hope someone takes Trae. Like, if we try and get a trade, maybe we get a singular first-round pick, or maybe two if team's desperate enough, and we'll take it and move. Because, frankly, they tried with DeJounte. They've tried now with doing the Dyson Daniels experiment. Jalen Johnson's still there. They brought in Nickeil Alexander-Walker. They have brought in pieces to try and help Trae Young become maximized, and it still does not work in terms of performance. I think his trade value is not quite in the mud. I think it's close. I think it's real close. Because when he has played, it's still not appealing enough. It's still not like, ooh, like, we can get something special if we trade for this guy. Ultimately, I think all three of these point guards are cursed. Ultimately, guys, I understand this is a more negative video, and I don't like doing this all the time, and I'm sure I'm going to get a crap ton of hate comments, whether it's from a Hornets fan telling me about how just awful the team is for Lamelo, or, Ja defenders trying to tell me how it's everyone else's fault, or Trae Young guys trying to tell me that he's still better than Jalen Johnson despite the stats. I'm just going to be honest. I'm just telling you how I honestly feel, because I feel like as a content creator, we have reached a point where everyone tries to reach for clickbait. Everyone tries to reach for something that's going to grab you and go, okay, yeah, this is how I really feel. No. I genuinely think all three of these point guards, that report, I don't think is very wrong or far off. Now, I don't think they're going to get traded for one another, because it would make zero sense to me for those organizations to do that. But man, How could you disagree with those three being in the mud? Now, Trae Young is less so because of like injury and off the court stuff, like not even close to the level of the other two. But his performance has been bad enough to put him in those combos. So at what point do we as basketball fans not acknowledge the fact that offensively, all three of these players may have already peaked? Ja's best year, I believe, would be 21, 22, 22, 23. One of those two. Lamelo is probably his sophomore to, third year in the league. And Trae Young's is not even close, clearly far and away 21, 22. And they have never looked as good since. On the court, whether it's a team change, it's coach change, whatever it is, they have not looked nearly as good or have been nearly as healthy. And they've continued to not be healthy. So at what point do you not go, damn? Because there's also a difference, I believe, to me. When you talk about an Embiid or a Kawhi Leonard, when those dudes have been healthy, they have been all NBA players. They have won championships, or in Embiid's case, won MVPs. They have been depoys. They have been elite, upper echelon, top 5, top 10 players in the entire world. These guys are not like that when they were at their absolute best. They're not. Even if you say like Trae Young got an All-NBA, cool, no doubt. But it's not the same. A singular All-NBA team is not the same to Kawhi in San Antonio or Embiid for basically the past 6 years minus the last 2. So like 4 or 5 years, it's not the same. It's just not. At the end of the day, guys, in almost all of these drafts, there have been another point guard who, due to their play style being better, or due to their health being better, or due to the team, whatever you want to say, that frankly, if you look back and did a redraft, they're probably getting drafted over that player. The only one who might not is Ja, and that's because there's not a lot of great point guards in that draft overall. 2018, for Trae, there's 3 point guards that would get drafted over him. Every time. Teams are going to take Luka, Shea, and Brunson every single time before they even look to Trae Young. I'm going to take this a question. 2020, if they did a redraft, Halliburton is going over LaMelo Ball every single time. No doubt, that's what they're doing. But ultimately, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. I know this is a negative video. Again, I apologize. I don't like doing this kind of content. But this was just something that has been on my mind, and I felt I needed to get off my chest. So as always, guys, this was M from No Soups. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe. Have a beautiful rest of your day, guys. Peace out.